plugging this into the Brook adapter into the PlayStation 3 port, like so. I've got a 10-button controller. All 6 of these are separate, these 2 are separate, and these 2 are separate. I think that's pretty awesome. Hello and welcome to another Nihongo Gamer video. As you know, I've been playing a lot of Capcom vs SNK2 on the Sega Dreamcast. This is a console from 20 years ago, but not everyone has the ability to play on this arcade stick. This is like $80 pre-owned still. I think even when it was new back in the day, 20 years ago, it was also like $80. This Dreamcast controller has its strengths, and I certainly like playing certain games on it, like, I don't know, Crazy Taxi is good fun on this. It's got that retro feel as well. This is exactly the controller I played on as a kid. But for fighting games, it can be a little bothersome because it's only got one shoulder button here and one shoulder button here. For the PlayStation 4, you've usually got 2 buttons here, like an R1 and an R2, so you can have all of your fight buttons, you know, punches and kicks, all on your right hand and only do directions on your left hand. Brook has just sent this to me, so full disclaimer, they sent this to me, I didn't buy one. This is a Brook controller adapter for the Dreamcast, and they make them also for PlayStation 2, they make them for like Neo Geo consoles, they make them for a whole range of consoles, even if you want to get your like PlayStation 4 stick to go into your Nintendo Switch. What we're looking at today is something that will turn a PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4 controller into something you can use with your Sega Dreamcast. And it doesn't just have to be fight sticks, apparently, as you can see here, it also works with game pads as well. I mean, I've actually purchased one of these adapters before. This is the one that goes from PlayStation 3 controller into a Nintendo Switch. And I've never had issues with latency or lag on it before. Hot swap, I guess you can pull the controller out while the console's on. I don't know if you could do that before. You've got a turbo feature if maybe you can't be bothered to mash certain buttons. You can actually customize the button layout, set buttons in completely different positions. And one thing that I just noticed here on the back of the box is it says supports 40 blocks of VMU, which I'm actually a little bit surprised about. This visual memory unit, this red thing that's plugged into the back of the Dreamcast controller, you can plug that into one of these arcade sticks, and this VMU is the memory card as well. So I thought, if you're using an adapter like this, because you can't put a VMU into it, are you going to have to carry around an original controller as well, just so that you can have your saved games loaded up? So we will have to test that out. So let's go ahead and get it out the box and see what sticks actually function with it. I love the little gecko or lizard or whatever the chameleon this is, mascot character for Brook, so we can chuck that over there. And inside the packaging we have the device itself. Now it should have a Dreamcast plug on one end and USB on the other end. It's very nice and simple. Ooh! Holographic. That's very swanky. This is the device itself. Very, very simple. Not a long cable. Doesn't need to be. It's just the adapter portion. But as you can see, it's a Dreamcast plug on one end. This is the side that will go directly into the Dreamcast like so. And on the other end, you've got the USB plug. This is where you plug in your PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4 controller. And in fact, you don't have to go into a Dreamcast. You can use this to like split the output. If you're using this to plug your PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4 controller into your Dreamcast, it has the added benefit of using this port here to also send the input to your PC. Maybe this adapter will make it X input compatible as well. And there are some games that only like X input and other games that only like direct input. There's so many different standards now, it's easy to get confused. So the next thing we need to do is grab our PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4 arcade stick. This does both. Let's plug this into the Dreamcast. So I'm plugging the adapter into the Dreamcast like so, and I'm going to plug this end into my Razer Pantera. So this is the controller. This is the cable coming out of it, plugging this into the Brook adapter into the PlayStation 3 port like so. And there should be a green light that turns on when I turn this on. Sorry, I just read it incorrectly. It is meant to be a red light, so this is correct. Now I'm going to assume that the options button is the start button. It is. And it says file. It was able to create a file. Seems to be going well so far. Press start here. Let's see if I can... Okay, up, down is working. Right, left is functioning. Woohoo! All right, let's see if the directions are working. So right, left, right, left, right, left. I'm not feeling any lag so far. Dashing, fine. Light, medium, heavy. Light, medium, oops, heavy. And alright, I don't actually plan to use this feature, but apparently it's got a turbo feature, so I could just hold down the button and she'll just do a million punches. Let's see what actually happens. So this is the device itself. In order to set this into turbo mode, you hold down the PS button and the select button. So I'll press these together at the same time. And the light has switched off, so you know that I'm in turbo assignment mode. And then while pressing the share button, like this, I can choose a button to be auto. I'm going to press select and punch. Then I press start to confirm it, and then I press PS to exit. Now I should be in turbo mode. Let's see if it actually functions. Yes! Alright. And as you can see, all my other buttons are normal. Holding down other buttons are not turbo. Honestly, I think this is more useful for other games like scrolling shooters and all that. So let's actually see if I can save some data and actually see whether it reloads my data later on. Let's go into color edit mode. Here we go. Let's make Kyo from the Nest series from KOF99. Yeah, this isn't going to work because his jacket's not independent to his trousers. Oh well. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous color. And go to save. Save this work of art that I've created. Oh, here we go. It says socket 1. This is not plugged in at all. This really is the memory unit of the Brook adapter. I'm going to press OK on here. Save. It has finished saving. No way. Let's just check out files. And there it is. There's my memory card slot. And it's got my data from Capcom vs. SNK 2 right there. Fantastic. Put the game back in here. So will it say game loading? Auto load shimashita. So it has loaded the game. All right, before we move on to testing things like the PlayStation 4 Dualshock pad, I actually want to point out one thing that I wasn't 100% clear on until I looked this up. This is the Dreamcast pad, right? It's got X, Y, Z, A, B, C. I thought that this was the limit of the number of buttons on a Dreamcast pad, so you could normally have an analog stick as well. But I thought that the limit to this pad was the D-pad here and then 6 buttons. But it turns out that actually there were sticks for the Dreamcast that had L and R buttons and Z and C buttons. For this particular fighting game, you actually don't have the option to use the Z, C, and the L and R buttons. You have to choose either one. As you can see, unlike the Dreamcast pad, which has 6 buttons here on the front, I've got this Razer Pantera, which actually has 8 action buttons on the front. And this is pretty much standard for most fighting games these days. Even though most fighting games only use 4, 5, or maybe 6 of these buttons over here are generally assumed to be used for like shortcuts. Not macros that do actual combos for you or super moves for you. Shortcuts that are built into games. Like Street Fighter V has the V trigger, where you press both the strong punch and the strong kick at the same time, and you end up in this special mode. So in Street Fighter V, you'd end up in V-trigger mode by pressing those 2 buttons together, right? In Capcom vs. SNK, you can choose A groove, and it does something kind of similar, actually. You can press strong and heavy together, and now you're in sort of, it's not V-trigger mode, it's A-ism mode, it's A groove mode. However, depending on the rules on whatever tournament you're going to, if they allow you to use the extra buttons, then you may as well set these up as shortcuts as well, right? So by default, this actually goes light punch, medium punch, heavy punch, and then the last one here is just another heavy punch. And same thing with the bottom, it's light kick, medium kick, strong kick, and then at the bottom on L2, it's just another heavy kick. However, you can actually set this to be a different button combination. So let's say that you want to do that. This is normally 2 buttons, like this to activate the A-ism groove, but you want that to be a single button. If I just press L1, I want that to happen. So let me just get rid of this super, and I'll just show you. Let's go over to the controller, and you can see on the Brook adapter itself, it's got a little status light. I'm going to press the PS button and the start button at the same time. So 1, 2, 3. And you can see the light has switched off. So I'm now in assignment mode. Now I press the button that I want to assign, L1. And then while holding down select, I'll press the buttons that I want to use as the button combination, which are heavy punch and heavy kick. So while holding down select, I'm going to press heavy punch and then heavy kick. Then I'll let go of select. Then I press start, and that has saved it into memory. And then the light should come back on when I press the PS button. Button assignment mode has finished. We'll go back over to the game and let's see whether it has actually worked. Press L1 now. You can see it's got my shortcut. So what used to be on L1, it used to be just heavy punch like this. It has now become a button combination. But you could do anything crazy, right? All right, there's one more thing that this could actually be useful for, which is called roll cancels. Now, I'm actually completely new to this. I never did one before last week. It was the first time I'd ever heard of it. There's a video if you want to check it out. But I didn't realize that actually you can do a special technique in this game, which involves doing a roll and then doing your move. And in doing so, this move will actually receive the properties of the roll, because this roll can go through fireballs. So I've got Ryu throwing these fireballs at me, and normally I can roll through them, but I can actually get this move to also roll through a fireball. like that. It's kind of a glitch in the game. It's not really meant to be there. And they actually took it out of future versions of the game. But the version that most people play, I think, for tournaments, they still have the version, they play the version that has this in it. I'm going to set my L1 button to be this, rolling through fireballs. So I'm going to press the PS button and options at the same time, and you can see the status light has gone off. And now I'm going to press the L1 button. That's what I want to use as the new combination button. But the button that I want it to activate is actually these two buttons here. So holding down select, pressing square, and then pressing cross, letting go of select, like that, then pressing start. That should save it, PS button. And if I press L1, I should get the tech roll. Brilliant, okay, so it's saved in there, like that, which means that instead of going like this, which was this really complicated button maneuver of pressing two buttons followed by this button over here, I have to go 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm actually pressing two buttons at the same time, and then my ring finger. Using this new button shortcut, I can just press L1 and R1 like this. Yep, okay, got it once. So you could like go through a fireball and then do some 3-hit combo or some super combo or whatever it is you want to do after that. I will just say though, that doing all this with your hands, either using a shortcut or doing the normal roll cancel, just your fingers like this, I can think of many situations where it would be advantageous, but don't think that this roll cancel thing automatically becomes easy just because you've now got it on a shortcut. You still have to get the timing, and that's still actually quite difficult to get that into your muscle memory. And obviously for certain combos where you have to time everything really, really carefully with 1 frame accuracy, and again, I don't do a lot of combos like that. Sometimes it helps to have a feature, the ability to double tap a button, right? Because then you get 2 chances to time the button correctly instead of doing this, tapping both fingers like this and hoping that you get both of them at the exact right time. You could just do this, and you know that both buttons will be pressed at exactly the same time. Starting to sound like a broken record, but double check your tournament rules before you start taking advantage of stuff like this, because if you learn it like this, then if you're in a tournament that doesn't allow you to use these shortcuts, then you're going to be stuck. Now, the assignment of these buttons, like I was just showing you by pressing button combinations, there's actually a few different ways to do it. Like if you want to change the position of this button to here, there's a different button combination for that. If you want to assign one button to press multiple buttons at the same time, then you press a different button combination for that. There are multiple things. If you want to do turbo, that's another separate different button combination. There's an instruction manual that comes with the converter, but I'm going to be honest, it doesn't feel that intuitive at first. You're like, wait, press options and start and PlayStation and then select and hold down button and then wait for light to switch off. It seems very unintuitive, and I guess just as a way to keep the device nice and simple looking, because most people are probably not taking advantage of those features often. That's the only criticism I have of the device, is that doing the whole button assignment thing on this device and on every controller I've ever owned that has a feature like that, it's always been complicated. Like you hold down the assign button and there's a bunch of combinations, and honestly, I wish that arcade sticks just had a little LCD right here with a little jog dial that I could go assign mode, click, press button now. Okay, and it had like a screen just telling you what to do. Well, one day maybe. Alright, it says that these controllers are hot swappable, so I'm actually going to try that right now. I've never done this before. I'm actually going to pull this out of here while it's on, and I'm going to plug my Dualshock in. So I've got my Dualshock controller here, plug the USB cable in, plug my Dualshock controller into the Brook controller. Let's see what happens. It's gone red, but I actually want it to be in controller mode, so I'm going to switch it, hold it down for 5 seconds, switch this into controller mode. Alright, I'm in controller mode. So now playing with the Dualshock 4, standard, feels nice and responsive, not feeling any kind of delay, anything noticeable at least. Now my buttons are set to left trigger and right trigger for heavy punch and heavy kick, and my R1 button is doing nothing, and my L1 button is doing nothing. So even though this is technically called controller mode, it's more like Dreamcast original controller emulation, where you've got L on the left side and R on the right side. But what I would most prefer is to have both the punch, the heavy punch and the heavy kick, both on the right side. So I'm actually going to set this controller thing back over to fight stick mode. So I'm waiting for 5 seconds. Okay, the light has gone red, and hopefully we'll be in fight stick mode, and R1 is punch, R2 is kick. Oh, brilliant, this is much better. And as a result, it means that you can use your buttons over here for the shortcuts still. Enter assign mode by pressing the PS button and options. Now I want L1 to be the button that's going to be the shortcut. So press L1. Then I'm going to hold down the share button, like so, and then press square, cross. Press options to save the information. Save it, and then when I press the PS button, the light should come back on. Go back into the game and let's see if I've got my tech roll on L1. Awesome! It works. I wonder if I could do a roll cancel on pad. Whoa! Did it like first time. What? It's easier on pad? Wait, why? Why is this easier on pad? Why is this easier on pad? Wait a minute. Alright, everything seems to be working just fine in wired mode, and I think just by being plugged into the adapter, it should already be synchronized. So if I remove this cable from the controller, so I'll just pull the USB cable out of the DS4, pull the USB cable out of the Brook adapter, you'll see that this is starting to flash, and there's nothing coming on this light, so actually the controller is completely unresponsive at the moment. But if I press the PS button on here, you can see there is a flashing light on the Brook adapter. This red light is now on, and we're completely wireless. You can see there's no USB cables coming out of this, the controller, or the adapter, and I still have control of my Dreamcast completely wirelessly. Wonderful. Feels the same to me. So we've tried the Razer Pantera, and we've tried the Dualshock 4. Let's go over to the Hori Fighting Commander and see how that fares. If I plug this USB controller in, will it just get rid of the DS4? Because the DS4, as you can see, DS4 is still controlling my character. Just go over here and plug in the Hori Fighting Commander, and I do not have control. So you do actually have to remove or switch off this controller, otherwise it stays connected to the Brook accessory. Press the PS button. Oh, I pressed the PS button. Oh, and it is functioning now. So the Hori Fighting Commander is functioning as expected. It's a fun little pad with a lot of buttons to play with, and I'm enjoying it in fight stick mode because it's got the R1 and R2 buttons set to heavy punch and heavy kick. Alright, so this pad is kind of interesting, right? Because unlike the DualShock 4, which has 4 face buttons and 4 shoulder buttons, this controller has 6 face buttons, 2 shoulder buttons on the right, and 2 shoulder buttons on the left, which are actually technically R3 and L3. So does that mean that we actually have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 buttons to play with? So that's 2 more buttons than my arcade stick earlier. R buttons are set to L1 and L2, so I've got my shortcut from earlier. I'm going to assign R2, which is actually technically L2 right now. Then I'm holding down share and R1, R2, options, PS, go back into the game, and brilliant. So I've got 2 shortcuts on the right side of the controller. Roll, set to L1, and V trigger activation or A groove activation, set to R2. The question is, can I do something with L3 and R3 as well? So we've gone into assign mode. I'm going to press L3, then I'm going to hold down share, light punch, medium punch, heavy punch, and if I press it now, it does work. And if I set this one, I'll have 3 kicks as well. Now I'm going to press L2, which is technically R3. I'm going to press the share button and then light kick, medium kick, heavy kick. Do I now have a controller with 10 action buttons? Let's see. Yeah! That is fantastic. If this is actually tournament legal, and again, you've got to double check with your specific tournaments, are you allowed to have 10 action buttons, and are you allowed to set those action buttons to tech roll, A groove activation, 3 punches and 3 kicks? Just double check, because right now I've got a 10 button controller. All 6 of these are separate, these 2 are separate, and these 2 are separate. I think that's pretty awesome. Alright, this is a very popular stick. It's the Catz Te2. I don't think they make them anymore, but it's Te2 Plus rather. It's a very popular stick. Hopefully it's plug and play, so I'll just go back over to the controller, pull out the Hori Fighting Commander, plug in the Catz Te2 Plus. Don't even need to press any buttons. Go into the game and brilliant. Plug and play. Absolutely no trouble. And actually there's one more stick that's quite popular that's not the Razer Pantera, but the new version, the Razer Pantera Evo. Alright, so this is a Razer Pantera Evo, and it's very similar to the Razer Pantera, but it's a bit lighter, and it slips around in my lap a bit. So the way that I hold the stick doesn't work out quite as well for me as the original Pantera, but I know other people who do like this stick quite a lot, actually. Hold on a second, let's actually plug a stick into here, because I'm using this Link special stick, which is removable. Okay, it's actually plugged in now, and that's interesting. Oh, it is supported. So this stick is also just perfectly fine. Pretty sure I checked the compatibility list and it wasn't listed on there, but it does seem to work. So, Razer Pantera Evo, no problem. But in fact, there's one more controller that I do want to check, which is neither stick nor pad. I am, of course, talking about the infamous Mixbox. Now, this is a controller which you've seen in previous videos. It's got WSAD controls over here, and it means that it feels a bit like a computer keyboard to play on if you're used to that sort of thing. So let's see if plugging this in is actually going to work. The board inside the Mixbox Universal Edition is actually a Brook Universal fighting board, so it's made by the same company. So it makes sense that a Universal fighting board made by Brook should work with a Brook accessory, right? So Mixbox going into the Brook adapter. Let's see if it works. It does work. It does work. Whew. There is a list on the Brook website, so if you're not sure whether your stick is going to work with it, just double check the list. But as you can see, this Mixbox stick, which has a Brook fighting board in it, plugged into the Brook Dreamcast adapter, is also working just fine. Yeah. Well, that is significantly easier with the Mixbox. And actually, there's one stick that I haven't checked, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't on the compatibility list, but I want to try it anyway. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the stick that I actually use the most. It's the Victrix Pro Fight Stick. So I didn't see this stick on the compatibility list, so let's just plug it in and see what happens. Do we get a solid? We got a solid red light. That's a good sign. Going back into the game, if I press options. Oh no, but I don't get any action. I wonder why this controller is not supported. I'm going to try and run the firmware update, because you can actually update the software, the firmware rather, that runs on this device. I'm going to try and update that, and then I'll come back to this video. Alright, so I've run the firmware update on this. I'm going to plug this in now. This has gone red.
Here we go.
I was not expecting that at all. Okay, this is fantastic. Alright, so as you can see, everything is working completely as expected. No delays or anything. Alright, well that was a pleasant surprise indeed. I hope you've enjoyed this video looking at the Brook Dreamcast adapter. I think it cost something like $40. Obviously, I got it sent to me by Brook. I can't tell you that it's worth buying because I didn't pay for it personally, but I do think that for $40, it's nice to have an adapter that, if it didn't exist, then literally, I don't know how we would get controllers, like modern day controllers, into the Dreamcast. To have an adapter which basically had no trouble with anything I threw at it today. I tried the Razer Pantera standard PlayStation Dualshock, I tried a Hori Fighting Commander, I tried the Razer Pantera Evo, I tried the Catz Te2 Plus, I tried a Mixbox, and I tried the Victrix Pro, which didn't work, and then I tried the firmware update, which is super easy, by the way. You just download the program, double click, plug it in, and then it's updated. That's as easy as it is. And as a result, it means that we don't need to go searching for secondhand versions of these sticks that were made, 20 years ago. And depending on when you buy it or who you buy it from, this cost me like $80 to get, and it's only got the 6 buttons on here. But by being able to use my actual Victrix Pro that I usually use for other fighting games, I've got all 8 buttons in the standard sort of Helix layout that I'm familiar with from Street Fighter V now. And if you want to go crazy, you can get yourself one of these Hori Fighting Commanders, and you can have 6 face buttons and 4 buttons here on the front for a total of 10 action buttons for a game like Capcom vs SNK, which I don't think they ever expected anyone to have more than 8 buttons for this game. In fact, I don't even think that within the game you can assign more than 6 buttons. So there you have it, the Brook PS3 or PS4 to Dreamcast Super Converter. It's about $40. I'm fantastically overjoyed that something this versatile with this many extra functions. First of all, it works with all the controllers I tried today. Plus, it has turbo functions, it has reassignable buttons, so you can move a button from one place to another if you didn't like the original placement of it, and the ability to set these mini shortcuts. So if I want to use these extra buttons on the side, I can actually set this to press 3 punches at the same time, or I can press this to do heavy punch and heavy kick at the same time. fantastically versatile tool here, and it's also got a memory card built in. What I thought was going to be an issue, I thought I would have to carry around my arcade stick and this original Dreamcast controller so that I could have a memory card for saving my data in these Dreamcast games. But it turns out that this Brook PS3, PS4 to Dreamcast super converter has a memory card built in, 40 blocks worth. If you are interested in purchasing one of these, there will be links in the description below and also more information about Brook products. I've got more videos, I've got other stuff that Brook has sent me. I'm looking forward to unboxing them and trying them in future videos, so do stay tuned. If you want to check them out, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. If you want to see me streaming games like this, I stream roughly 3 times a week, sometimes 4, sometimes even 5 times a week on Twitch. If you want to talk about things like adapters, arcade sticks, fighting games, Japan in general, art, come and join us on the Discord. There's a link to the Discord below, and I usually put my notifications for when the stream has begun on Twitter. Anyway, that's all for now. Don't forget to comment and like this video, and I'll see you all next time.